Like thousands of small businesses in Rhode Island, Wilfred's Seafood in Woonsocket faces a full menu of taxes and fees every year just to stay in business. Leanne Senek is the company's controller and sees them all come across her desk.
In this industry in particular, there are a lot of licenses and permits that you need to have: shellfish shipper license, food business license, different things to ship into Massachusetts, to bring product in from other states. Everything has a fee attached to it, and they're $200, $300, $400, but every year 10 or 12 of those, it really adds up.
What Senek didn't see until recently was an unexpected doubling of the federal unemployment tax that each of the 32,000 businesses in the state is required to pay every year. It has doubled over the past 2 years because Rhode Island has still not repaid more than $200 million it borrowed from the feds when its unemployment fund went insolvent in 2009. The Federal Unemployment Tax Act, or FUTA, helps fund the administration of unemployment benefits, pays part of the extended benefits thousands of Rhode Islanders have taken advantage of, and funds job service programs like Network RI.
If you borrow from the federal government, if you have a loan outstanding for more than 2 years, the federal government automatically increases the employer's federal tax.
Because they have to make up for it.
To pay back the loan. It's an automatic payback of the loan.
Bob Langlays is an assistant director at the state's Department of Labor and Training, which oversees the Unemployment Insurance Fund. He says Rhode Island businesses have been paying a higher rate each of the past 2 years because the state and more than a dozen others across the country still owes the feds hundreds of millions of dollars. The added tax affects each business differently depending on its size.
We were looking at a difference of $840 this year, which was due and payable in January with our quarterly return, which was our year-end return. So that $840, that's the difference between sponsoring a Little League team here in the community. That's a quarter of our advertising budget for the year. So it's going to come out of somewhere.
It was double. And at first I thought there was a software glitch.
Barbara Holmes is a CPA who saw an increase not only in some of her clients' federal unemployment tax, but her own as the owner of a small business herself.
It wasn't the gross national product or anything, but still, I can, take $400 or whatever it was and use it to better advantage potentially. It directly hits the businesses. It's just another tax that the businesses have to sustain, and if we don't become more business friendly in this state, we're going to be in big trouble.
Senek says she never got notification from the DLT about the tax increase and found out from a fellow businessman who asked if she'd seen it earlier this month. He had received this note from his payroll company, which is the first he'd heard about it. Were you aware of this?
No, I was not. We didn't get any type of notification from DLT. The only thing we got was from our payroll company saying that this additional amount was going to come out of our checking account on this date because it was due.
The DLT provided us with notices it sent out, adding that it also held public workshops to answer employers' questions. The DLT also says in 2011, the General Assembly made structural changes to the unemployment system, including a reduction of benefits that will help rebuild the system and erase the current $214 million deficit, but not anytime soon. What's the long-term game plan to pay that off?
All right, with the 2011 changes we put in, we expect the loan to be repaid back in 2015, a year earlier than it would have been had we not made those changes in 2011. And at that point, we'll build up reserves and have a healthy enough reserve relieved so that we'll have to borrow again.
But that means 1 or 2 more years that you're going to see increase.
Right, you'll see it 1 or 2 more years, yes.
It would be nice to know going forward, should we be planning on an additional 6%? Should we be planning on an additional 9% for next year so that businesses can plan? We can't set our budget. We do actually work off a budget.
What message do you have for businesses who are kind of facing this?
Well, the long term, we're going to get out of this. Short term, yes, there's some pain involved. They're not taking the brunt by themselves because we are, again, reducing benefits. So in 2 years, we'll be the same as Massachusetts and Connecticut as far as what employees receive.
What's your message to the state here?
My message for the state is basically to try and make Rhode Island a place where people want to do business, where we can do business, where there's an incentive for people to come in here.
It's just annoying the state is so unfriendly to businesses, and we have now in beginning of 2013, we've become more unattractive for businesses. It's just not healthy.
In Woonsocket, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.